My name is Antonio, and for as long as I can remember, the scent of yeast and warm flour has been the true aroma of my life, a comforting blanket that wraps around me even in my dreams, guiding my hands in the dark hours before dawn when the rest of Rome still sleeps. I am 45 years old, and my days begin long before the first rays of sun kiss the ancient cobblestones outside Pane Antico, my family's bakery, a small, humble shop nestled on a quiet street near the heart of the city, a place where generations of my family have poured their hearts into crafting bread that tells a story of tradition and love. My hands, thick and strong, are calloused from years of kneading dough, shaping loaves, and carefully tending the wood-fired oven, and there's a quiet satisfaction in feeling the soft, elastic texture of a perfectly proofed dough, knowing that soon it will transform into a crusty masterpiece, ready to bring warmth to someone's breakfast table. I always greet my regulars by name. Their familiar face is a comforting part of my routine, and I love to see their smiles as they carry away a still-warm baguette or a dense, fragrant rye loaf, imagining it gracing their family meals later that day, connecting us all in a simple, profound way through something as fundamental as bread. For years, this rhythm was my world, a steady, dependable pulse, yet lately, a new, unwelcome guest had joined me in the early mornings, a cold knot of anxiety that tightened in my chest, a heavy weight that pressed down on my shoulders, making each lift of the flour sack feel a little heavier, each sunrise a little less bright. The truth was, Pane Antico, my family's legacy, was struggling, caught in the grip of forces far larger than my small oven and my tired hands. The cost of everything, flour, yeast, olive oil, even the wood for the oven, seemed to climb higher each week, while fewer and fewer people walked through my door, their own lives made difficult by the city's quiet economic struggles, choosing to save their precious euros rather than indulge in the simple luxury of artisan bread. I fought this creeping dread with every ounce of my being, telling myself that hard work had always been the answer for my family, that dedication and passion would see us through. But deep down, a whisper of doubt, my internal nemesis, began to echo in the silent bakery, asking if I was good enough, if I was strong enough to face the possibility of losing everything my ancestors had built, turning this cherished place into just another empty storefront in a city already full of them. I tried everything I could think of to turn things around, waking even earlier, staying even later, often catching just a few hours of sleep on a cot in the back room while the dough fermented, my mind constantly churning with calculations and worries. I experimented with new recipes, offering smaller, more affordable loaves, and even baked little sweet treats, things I usually didn't do, hoping to entice new customers, but the effort often felt like trying to fill a bucket with a hole in the bottom. I cut every personal expense I could imagine, eating mostly day-old bread myself, patching worn shirts instead of buying new ones, all while my aging mother, who lived just a few streets away, gently chided me for looking so tired, always offering to bring me a plate of pasta, which I sometimes accepted, feeling the warmth of her love even as the shame of my struggles gnawed at me. There were days I felt a glimmer of hope, like the time I thought I had secured a new contract to supply a small local restaurant, a chance to sell a larger volume of bread. But then their own financial problems arose, and the contract was rescinded with a polite but firm apology, leaving me with a mountain of flour I had purchased specifically for their order. Then my old, faithful mixer, a machine that had hummed reliably for 20 years, suddenly groaned to a halt one morning, its motor burning out with a puff of smoke and a smell like singed hair, and the cost of repairs or a replacement felt like an impossible mountain, forcing me to knead everything by hand for weeks, my shoulders aching, my fingers swollen, delaying every batch and further exhausting my already depleted energy. Just when I felt I couldn't lift another sack of flour, I heard about a small business loan program from the city, a lifeline I desperately clung to, spending countless hours filling out paperwork, gathering documents, dreaming of how that money could fix the mixer, buy a new oven, and give Pane Antico a fighting chance to survive. I submitted the application with a sense of hopeful desperation, waiting for weeks, checking my phone constantly, each passing day tightening the knot in my stomach, until the letter finally arrived, a thin, formal envelope that felt impossibly heavy in my hand, its crisp edges almost mocking me as I tore it open to read the polite but unequivocal words. "We regret to inform you that your application has been denied." That was my lowest point. The world seemed to tilt, the vibrant colors of Rome outside my window dulled to a somber gray, and I sank onto a flour sack in the back room, the scent of bread, usually so comforting, now tasting like ash in my mouth. I closed my eyes, the weight of generations pressing down on me, and for the first time, truly, honestly, I felt like giving up, like unlocking the doors of Pane Antico one last time and walking away forever. I spent that night in the bakery, the silence of the shop broken only by the occasional distant rumble of a delivery truck, contemplating the end of everything, the thought a bitter taste on my tongue. Yet, as the first hint of pre-dawn light began to filter through the windows, casting long, pale shadows across the flour-dusted floor, a strange thought began to form, a tiny spark in the suffocating darkness of my despair. If this was indeed the end, I decided, then I would go out not with a whimper but with a final, defiant act of creation, a last testament to the craft I loved, a final gift from my heart. I pulled out my special sourdough starter, the one my grandfather had tended for decades, its rich, tangy aroma a comforting whisper from the past, and I began to mix, to knead, to shape, pouring every ounce of my skill, my sorrow, my love, and my lingering hope into a batch of the most perfect sourdough loaves I had ever made. I didn't care about selling them. This was for me, for the spirit of Pane Antico, for the silent ancestors watching over me. As the loaves proofed, their surfaces bubbling gently, promising incredible flavor and texture, a new idea born of pure instinct blossomed in my mind. What if, instead of closing the doors on my sadness, I used these loaves to share a moment of warmth, a small gesture of connection in a world that felt increasingly disconnected? Without thinking too much, before the sun had fully risen, while the loaves were still warm from the oven, their crusts golden and inviting, I carefully placed each one into a simple paper bag. And then, moving silently through the quiet, sleeping streets, I left a warm, fragrant loaf on the doorstep of every family on my street, a silent offering, a gesture of unexpected kindness born from my own deepest despair. I returned to my bakery, the first blush of dawn painting the sky, feeling strangely lighter, a quiet peace settling over me, even though I knew nothing had changed financially. But then, an hour later, the first knock came at my door, followed by another and another. It was Maria, the elderly woman from number 5, her eyes glistening with tears as she held her loaf, thanking me for the unexpected joy it brought her, saying she hadn't tasted such bread in years. Then came the young couple from number 11, both out of work, who tearfully confessed they had been down to their last few coins, and the bread felt like a miracle. One by one, my neighbors came, not just to thank me, but to buy more bread, to share their own struggles, to simply talk, to connect, their gratitude blooming into something tangible, something real. Word of the baker who gave away his bread, the baker who shared his warmth in a time of need, spread like wildfire through the community, and soon people from other streets, people I had never met, were lining up outside Pane Antico, not just for the bread, but for the story, for the feeling of hope and connection that my simple act had sparked. Suddenly, the knot in my chest loosened, replaced by a surge of pure, exhilarating gratitude. My bakery wasn't just surviving, it was thriving, born anew from an act of quiet compassion. Now, years later, Pane Antico is more than just a bakery. It is a hub of the community, a place where people share stories, offer support, and yes, still buy the best sourdough in Rome. I never forget that cold, dark morning, and so every week, I still bake a special batch, not for sale, but to donate to local charities and to leave for struggling families, ensuring that the ripple of kindness continues to spread. And sometimes, a young person, their eyes bright with ambition and a love for baking, comes to me, asking if I might teach them the ancient art, often mentioning that they heard about the baker who saved his shop by giving away his bread. A small twist of fate that reminds me every single day that even in our darkest moments, the simplest act of kindness can turn everything around, proving that hope, like a perfectly leavened loaf, will always rise.